they'll never acknowledge, and they don't believe this, is that some of those porn stars that you're watching, I tell you this is a spiritual person. They're not porn stars. They're not humans. They're Marines. No, they weren't generated by AI. They weren't generated by AI. They're a being, but a celestial one.
So when you first said Marines, he's talking about a Marine spirit, which we could go super, super deep into that idea about how demons need water. And there's biblical ties that people can make about why that's the case. Specifically, you can see the scripture where Jesus talks about the man who is basically like the parable of the person who had a demon or a strong man, and that demon got kicked out of the house, the body of that individual, and that demon was wandering around through dry and waterless places until he could find another home. So, we're not going to go super deep into that topic right now, but it's just interesting, man. There's interesting connections here, so let's listen more to what he has to say about these people who might not be humans all the time, but are celestial beings.
Footballers you meet in the streets, rappers you meet in the streets, artists you meet in the streets, that woman will never be seen anywhere by anyone except from that screen and the directors that were present. For what purpose would a Marine be the actor on porn? They're all humans. How many of you verified to be human? And then what happens is you watch that video, then after you watch that video and you ejaculate, the incubus spirit, it requires semen. So that semen was a sacrificial lamb you gave, well, to that Marine goddess that was on the screen. And then suddenly, 3 years down the line, you have to go to the hospital, they tell you that your soldiers are low. Well, to that sister who was so engulfed by her sexual fantasy, she continually masturbated on those websites. 4 years down the line, she's barren. Why am I barren? Because you already gave us your womb. That wasn't just a man that you were watching. He was a warlock. He belongs to another kingdom. He's not just an artist who's being paid. And you start to wonder, some of those sexual expressions they have, how they use expressions like wet, 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 wet. And you just assume that wet, wet, wet is because of what's happening to them there. No. They know more than you know because they know where they live. You see, all of this now, there's going to be a 16-year-old on TikTok saying he's a liar, this doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And those are the same people, they come to their first year of university and they rape someone. And some of those people, it's just that most times people never have a chance to talk to the one that was victimizing. We hear from the victim, we never hear from the person that's raping. Some of those people, they can tell you, I never intended on doing that to that woman. Something came on me.
There is where everything is.
So he's about to share a clip of a guy who I think is like going to confess to committing that sort of crime. Here's another interesting thing that I'll tell you. So there's a really good documentary called Operation Toussaint. I'll pull up the image for you. Here it is, Operation Toussaint. Hopefully it's not. Okay. So this is on Amazon Prime. I actually recommend that you go check this out. This is a documentary chronicling Tim Ballard, who runs this organization called Operation Underground Railroad. And they go and they rescue kids that are caught up in sex trafficking. Great documentary. You got to go watch it. Just go watch that documentary. But what's really interesting is in this documentary, they're interviewing, or I wouldn't say they're interviewing, but they're helping the viewer understand, okay, so let's say they catch some of these bad guys, they do these sting operations, they catch these pedos and whatever, and they ask them, how on earth did you get to this place of like becoming so low and degrading yourself and debasing your own mind that you thought it was okay to go and buy a child to do you know what with. And they said commonly what happens is these people, they start off just watching normal, P-O-R-N, normal in regards to like heterosexual, P-O-R-N. And so they do that, and then at some point that just doesn't do it for them anymore, and they got to go to like something else or watch somebody who's younger or barely legal, and then that doesn't do it for them. So then they got to go to teens, and then even children. And then at some point, it's like not even enough to watch it. Like you got to go get the real thing yourself. And it sounds super demonic because it is. I think we underestimate how the devil can absolutely get a foothold in your life by what you're watching and what you're consuming through your phone, what you're letting through your eye gate and your ear gate. These are all access points into your soul, into your body. So as this individual is sharing this, to me, that whole concept is not very surprising to me at all. I want to play the rest of what he's got going on here, but before I do that, I want to share with you some scripture. So this is what it says in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. It says, "Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it." So the Bible actually encourages us as Christians to not minimize or play off the idea that every single encounter that you have, whether it's at an airport or you're traveling or down the street or whatever, that every single person that you're talking with or just brushing by is just a human being. The Bible actually would want to communicate, God himself would want to communicate to us that he sends angels, messengers, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes disguised as human beings. That's why it says, don't forget to show hospitality to everybody, to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without even realizing it. That's a pretty wild thought, but think about, what are demons? Demons are actually fallen angels. Demons actually originally were angels who worshiped God and helped, they served God in heaven, and then they all followed Satan, who was this chief angel who was cast down to earth for his pride and his rebellion. And then you had all of these angels who followed suit. They became demons. And so if this is possible for angels, why wouldn't it also be possible for demons? Let me show you some other scripture. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 14. It says, "But I am not surprised. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light." What does this mean? It means that the devil's not going to come to you with a pitchfork and like a red jumpsuit. He's going to come to people pretending to be everything that you would want in life. He wants to come to you as an angel of light. So if Satan is able to do this, why wouldn't other demons be able to shapeshift to deceive people as well? This part's going to really blow your mind. You probably have heard of this. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Okay. This is chronicling a time when people that God created actually started sleeping with demons, and then they kind of created this like super like just perverted demigod race, basically. This is in the Bible. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. "Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women," and the sons of God, by the way, is speaking of these messengers, these angelic beings, "saw the beautiful women and took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years. In those days, and for some time after, giant Nephilites, or the Nephilim, lived on the earth. For whenever the sons of God had intercourse with women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient times." So when you see all these different mythologies, Greek mythology talking about these demigod sorts of people, or these giant, like literally a race of giants, this is a biblical reality that is referring to when these demonic beings were having intercourse with humans. We also, I don't know if you've seen this, and you can testify in the comments. You guys are doing such a good job, by the way, if you follow my channel, of testifying what Jesus has done and delivered you from in the comments. It's really important for people to see, because don't take my word for it. Go to the Bible and listen to what God has actually done in people's lives. if you have a testimony of being delivered from this sort of demonic oppression, people I know personally have actually been sexually abused by demons in the middle of the night. And this is not an uncommon phenomenon. So if you have a story like that that Jesus has redeemed you from, please share it in the comments so that other people can check that out. Now, let's go back into this clip from this individual here.
And the demon used to be right out here in front. And had a little pointing finger.
So he's like drawing the experience he had encountering this demon.
And now, the demon's in here. And it still tries to get out. And I'm very the demon.
At this point, Dennis is now proclaiming that the demon took over, and during the moments that he could not remember, the demon was in control.
I can see her.